Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Jane's Fighters Anthology as we continue with the Russian showcase mission. So today we'll be beginning a two-part showcase of the X-32. So let's take a full wing of these guys. Let's have some Raptors on escort. Our true 5th gen fighting force here. Let's throw one more. And then Chinese Europe be over Vladivostok, and we will give them some Su-35s so they stand a chance. And custom weapons load 20,000 feet. Looking for, here we go. 20 miles, we'll just make it an armored column with its standard air defenses. And we'll pretty much just be going with the standard loadout, I think. Yeah, so we'll be going with our standard loadout, and with that, let's get started. Alright, so first off, we'll assist the F-22s in knocking out these aircraft. Here we go, let's turn on our infrared systems. See, the F-22s are advancing. I'm sure they'll have, well, if I were leading the F-22s, they certainly wouldn't have a problem with this wing, but we'll see what ends up happening. Got that nice splinter camo on there. His buddies, I thought I gave him 5. More that I see. Okay, I guess we're in range. So we are just going to start opening fire.
Missile launch.
And as expected, it's pretty much a massacre. This is what happens when you send up a 4.5 gen versus a 5th gen fighting force. And we had a lot of the cheaper quote-unquote fighters. And it looks like everyone's gone into neutral searching, so I think it's safe to say we wiped them all out. So now we will be attacking the ground forces. And we can envision this as kind of being a close air support role for friendly forces. We'll provide cover for our wingmen by launching some Mavericks at their air defenses. We see they have a nicely shaped column up there, just begging to be bombed. I think we have a misfire here. Oh, no, it worked. Damn it. Okay, so that's an objective. That ZSC-23's got to go, but I think first we're going to close in and knock this guy out. Sounds like our wingmen are making short work of that armored column. Alright, he is out of there. Alright, let's reorient ourselves here, so you are what we want. Well, you're one of what we want. There we go. Maverick off the rails. So he's pretty much guaranteed to be dead, and we can do a little strafing on this guy. Boom! So with that, we can disengage and start heading towards the nearest friendly airbase, which is actually going to be pretty far to the east. So we will set our horse here, and we obviously can't let him escape. Well, they have another. Okay, so they have one more ZSC-23, I think. So let's see if we can find him. There he is. So we will have completely decimated the Chinese forces in this area. Get an IR lock. This will reduce our landing weight too, so. Or it could miss.
Attack AAA, you're 10 o'clock.
There we go. Yeah, we managed to not get hit miraculously. It looks like we still have a full wind too, so that's nice. But we will begin heading east, and I shall tell you about the X-32. So, the X-32, the Boeing X-32 actually, in 1993, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agencies, known by most people as DARPA, launched the Common Affordable Lightweight Fighter Project, or CAF. The project's purpose was to develop a stealth-enabled design to replace all the lightweight DoD fighters, including the F-16, the F-18, and the Harrier. And when I say F-18, I of course mean the Legacy Hornet, not the Super Hornet. And around the same time, the Joint Advanced Strike Technology Project was started, and in 1994, Congress ordered the two to be merged into the Joint Strike Fighter Program. And a lot of companies took part in the first phase of that project, which involved, drafting the aircraft designs and submitting them to the DoD. And the DoD selected two of them to move forward. On the 16th of November 1996, Boeing and Lockheed Martin were awarded contracts for them to produce two of their concept demonstrator aircraft each. Under the contract, these fighters were required to demonstrate conventional takeoff and landing, carrier takeoff and landing, and short takeoff and vertical landing. They were also expected to include ground demonstrations of the production representative aircraft systems such as preferred weapon system concept. One major departure from previous projects was the prohibition of the companies from using their own money to finance development. Each was awarded $750 million to produce their two aircraft, including avionics, software, and hardware. This limitation promoted the adoption of low-cost manufacturing and assembling techniques and also prevented either Boeing or Lockheed Martin from bankrupting themselves in an effort to win such an important contest. One could also argue that it's somewhat of a form of corporate welfare, but that's a different discussion. Boeing's strategy for a competitive advantage was to offer substantially lower manufacturing lifecycle costs by minimizing variations between the different JSF variants. The X-32 therefore was designed around a large one-piece carbon fiber composite delta wing. The wing had a span of 9.15 meters with a 55-degree leading edge sweep and could hold up to 20,000 pounds of fuel. Contrast this to what we have in the game, which only holds 7,000 pounds, give or take. The purpose of the high sweep angle was to allow for a thick wing section to be used while still providing limited transonic aerodynamic drag and to provide a good angle for wing installed conformal antenna equipment. The wing would prove a challenge to fabricate. The compete on cost strategy also led Boeing to pick a direct lift thrust vectoring system for the Marine short takeoff and vertical landing requirement, as this would only necessitate the addition of a thrust vectoring module around the main engine. However, this choice required the engine to be mounted directly behind the cockpit and move the center of gravity forward from its usual position in jet fighters, which is towards the rear of the aircraft, to enable a neutral attitude hover. Boeing had proposed in the 1960s a similar supersonic fighter with a mid-center of gravity mounted engine with vectored thrust nozzles, but this never proceeded beyond pictures published in Aviation Week. And this does bear some similarities to an earlier attempt to design a supersonic VTOL aircraft for the Sea Control ship. But that's a whole other story. And I think that one was done by Rockwell. By comparison, the Lockheed entry looked like, if anything, a smaller version of the F-22 Raptor stealth fighter. The Boeing in-house nickname of the X-32 was Monica. Yet another effect of the selection of the direct lift system was the large chin-mounted air intake. This was required to feed sufficient air to the main engine to provide the thrust necessary to hover during the zero horizontal velocity phase when it could not exploit ram air pressure. A knock-on effect of this large intake was the potential direct visibility of the compressor blades to radar. Mitigation possibilities included variable baffles designed to block incoming radio waves without adversely affecting airflow. two X-32 aircraft featured a delta wing design. However, 8 months into the construction of the concept demonstrator aircraft, the JSF's maneuverability and payload requirements were refined at the request of the Navy, and Boeing's delta wing design fell short of the new targets. Engineers altered the aircraft's design with a conventional canted twin tail that reduced weight and improved agility, but it was too late to change the aircraft. It was judged that they would be sufficient to demonstrate Boeing's technology, and I think we see that represented here on the Astafel game. On 14th of December 1999, Boeing unveiled both its concept demonstrators and its plant in Palmdale, California, in front of 5,500 attendants. While the X-32A was expected to make an appearance, the rollout of the X-32B was a surprise, as construction of the latter aircraft had started some 3 months after the former and was completed 6 weeks after the X-32A. Boeing attributed the rapid construction of the Stovall version to the use of digital design and assembly methods. After having the Pratt & Whitney F-119 engine installed in April 2000, the X-32A commenced low and medium speed taxi tests, which had been completed by late May. Due to the heavy delta wing design of the X-32, Boeing demonstrated Stovall and supersonic flight in separate configurations, with the Stovall configuration requiring that some parts be removed from the fighter. The company promised that their conventional tail design for production models would not require separate configurations. By contrast, the Lockheed Martin X-35 concept demonstrator aircraft were capable of transitioning between their Stovall and supersonic configurations mid-flight. The first flight of the X-32A took place on the 18th of September 2000 from Boeing's Palmdale plant to Edwards Air Force Base. The aircraft, piloted by Boeing test pilot Fred Knox, took 670 meters of runway before becoming airborne at 150 knots at around 8 a.m. Shortly after takeoff, a minor hydraulic leak was discovered and the flight was shortened to 20 minutes from the expected 30 to 40 minutes. According to Knox, the FA-18 chase plane required a lot of afterburner to keep up with the X-32 during the initial stages. During the flight, the aircraft reached 10,000 feet, attained a speed of 200 knots, and attained an angle of attack of 13 degrees. Despite the shortened flight, about 80% of the planned test points were accomplished. It was powered by a conventional derivative of the F-22 afterburning turbofan, designated the F-119 PW614C. On the 29th of March 2001, the X-32B Stovall version made its first flight. The flight lasted 50 minutes as the aircraft flew from Palmdale to Edwards Air Force Base. The flight had originally been scheduled for the third quarter of 2000. A modified version of the 614C engine, known as the F-119 PW614S, powered the Stovall aircraft. In normal flight, the 614S was configured as a conventional afterburning turbofan. However, in the Stovall mode, a butterfly valve diverted the core stream exhaust gases to a pair of thrust vectoring nozzles located close to the aircraft's center of gravity. Forwarded these nozzles, a jet screen nozzle provided a sheet of cool bypass air to minimize hot gas recirculation. There was also a pair of ducts leading to roll nozzles near the wingtips. 2 pairs of ducts fed the aft pitch yaw nozzles and the forward pitch nozzles. The afterburner was unlit with no gas flow during lift. The X-32B achieved Stovall flight in much the same way as the Aviate-B Harrier II, with thrust vectoring of the jet exhaust. A smooth transition between the Stovall and normal modes was attained by maintaining a constant engine match, facilitated by the control system algorithm maintaining a fixed total nozzle effective area. Thus, the engine was unaware of various nozzles being opened up and closed off to complete the transition. Basically, the F-119 PW614S was a direct lift engine, whereas the Lockheed Martin Stovall team used a more complex and riskier alternative known as the F-119 PW611, which comprised a remote shaft-driven lift fan powered by the main engine. However, this generated more lift thrust than possible with only direct exhaust gases. A successful design would have greater payload and thus longer range than a simple thrust-vector turbofan. Flight testing of both companies' aircraft continued until July of 2001. On October 26, 2001, the Department of Defense announced that the Lockheed Martin X-35 had won the JSF competition. The X-35 would be developed into the production Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, and we'll be going over that in a separate video, because that is a very long article. The loss of the JSF contract to Lockheed Martin in 2001 was a major blow to Boeing, as it represented the most important international fighter aircraft project since the lightweight fighter program competition in the 1960s and 1970s that resulted in the development of the F-16 and the F-18. At the time, the production run of the JSF was estimated at anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 units. Prior to the awarding of the contract, many lawmakers pushed the idea of retaining a losing competitor as a subcontractor. However, the winner-takes-all principle was not changed. Nonetheless, Boeing views its work on the X-32 as a strategic investment, yielding important technologies which it has been able to adapt to the Boeing Super Hornet, amongst other projects of theirs. And I think maybe some of the stealth technology we're seeing in the Block 3 Hornets, as well as the sensor technology. And in 2005, the Boeing X-32A was transferred to the National Museum of the United States Air Force near Dayton, Ohio. Its condition deteriorated due to being outside for several years following the end of the JSF competition, but it is now indoors and plans to be restored. The X-32B was transferred to the Patuxent River Naval Air Museum, adjacent to NAS Patuxent River in St. Mary's County, Maryland in 2005. It underwent restoration at the museum's restoration facility in June 2009 and is now on display. And that's pretty much changes it. The stats were pretty similar to the Lockheed Martin X-35 in terms of the capacity and such. But I believe the range is a bit shorter, especially for the B variant. So that is that. And again, once again, because we can hover in this one, the one they give us in game is actually the B variant, which was intended for the Marine Corps. The Air Force would have been just a conventional takeoff and landing rather than being able to hover, which I'm sure you've seen our wingmen do a couple of times, and we've even done that ourselves a couple of times. So let's just land here. But yeah, one other thing to note about the X-32, I don't think it really shows up in game, is a lot of people, when you look at the front of the aircraft, it looks a lot like the aircraft is laughing for it to be a person, and let's see if, yeah, you can't see it here because it looks like they changed the design. They have the F-35 style twin engine intakes here, whereas what the article mentioned, there'd be, instead of these are gone, and there'd be a single large square intake there. And that, combined with the fact that the aircraft, when landed like this, actually was pitched up a little bit. I think maybe the front landing gear was a bit longer or something. It would give the appearance that the aircraft was laughing. So it gained some notoriety for that. But yeah, the Astavold or the Advanced Short Takeoff Vertical Landing X-32 never got anywhere, and ended up being canceled. Another thing to note that change that Jane's made from the project. I don't know if Boeing had announced, I know they announced this wing change, but I don't know if they announced some of these other changes. Maybe this is something they had discussed to, because this looks like it'd be about the same area as that square intake under the nose, but it would, this would let them kind of divert the radar signatures a bit more efficiently, so you can't look straight into the engine. And likewise, these little, what's the word? Canards. These canards here, these were not in the original design either. but it's possible that they did mention that the Navy changed the requirements and wanted more maneuverability, so these might have been another thing that they had discussed to increase maneuverability, although it's important to note that they would have come at the cost of somewhat reduced, or rather somewhat increased radar visibility, which is why the U.S. military, you see a lot of Asian and European militaries making use of cannons, but the U.S. typically doesn't because they favor, well, for one, our engines and plane design is, good enough that we don't necessarily need them to, gain an edge, and then two, we don't need them because we have stealth. So, we can engage from a distance, but even if we were to get into a dogfight, our current designs are more than a match for anything fielded by Europe, Russia, China, or the like, so. But, alright, that is a lengthy little history of the X-32, so let us end the mission here. So we completed the mission. Our wingman took a lot of damage. I think one took like 99% damage. We can see another one took 75%, but we did the mission, and I think most of that was probably just from the initial volley with the flankers. But yeah. So we have 3 SAMs and 3 AAAs to our credit. One of them knocked down a fighter and 2 tanks. I imagine the others have similar performance stats. So yeah, that is the X-32. So thanks for sticking with it. I know these showcase videos are a bit long, but there's a lot of information, and I feel for as much as we're seeing, the F-22, the F-35, X-32, the F-117, the B-2, they deserve to have some love given to them and attention, especially since I didn't do any pieces in the campaigns for them in both Egypt and Russia. So next time we'll conclude the X-32 with an article on the F-35, and then I think after that we'll move on to the B-2, and from there I think we might just move on to the Russian single missions, and then after that, last campaign of the vanilla game. So with that, thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for next time, and we'll see you then.